18.
That's correct. So lots of things started happening to me at that stage.
Are you able to summarize them with reference to the annexes or one of the annexes that's annexed to your affidavit?
So that would probably be this document that I refer to as joining the dots, which is at page B74.
Yes. Now that document is from
June 2017, but it deals with the years prior to June 17. It doesn't deal with what happened after June 2017.
Yes.
And what that document does is it names a number of the individuals which I believed at that stage had infiltrated the criminal justice system. And I named them and I explained where I believed they fitted in to this infiltration process.
Just pause there. See the report, joining the dots, confidential report on page 74. It's dated June 2017. It was published in conjunction with AfriForum in late 2017.
That's correct. In fact, it had been updated by June 2017. So I had produced, together with AfriForum, another report called Joining the Dots. And that would have been 6 months or 7 months earlier. But by June 2017, we had more information. We had more understanding of what I considered to be, well, I wasn't on my own in considering it. By that stage, the then public protector had issued a report, and the report was called State of Capture. And I looked at the aspects of that report, State of Capture, and how that interleaved, how it fitted in with what I was seeing going on in the criminal justice system.
And is that then results in what you called a special report on state capture?
I did a further report.
That's on page 95.
Yes, but I produced that report in June 2019.
Yes.
So that's like 2 years later. So what had happened was I had set out the persons that I believe were involved in criminal conduct in this report. I then set out what I believed they had done. And by the way, this was published, and not a single one of them ever came and said, we're issuing you with a summons for defamation. And then I named the people that I believed they were protecting, and I'm talking about people in the criminal justice system protecting criminals. And
so in this period, post Jackie Selebe and his conviction and prosecution and conviction, and you now embark on also pursuing the persons that you've mentioned in your affidavit, quite a number of them senior officials in the criminal justice system, prosecutors, officials. Was there any successful prosecution subsequently for the period 2011-2012 through to June 2019?
There were arrests and trials commenced. And by 2020, I think a total of 12 generals had been arrested and or suspended and or dismissed from the police and were facing criminal charges, as well as a number of brigadiers and colonels. And this, you can say, played out in the criminal charges that were brought against the people I've named. And it appeared to lead to what I would have considered to be a cleanup of the police. And most of these people were
So was this
police.
as a direct result of the work you were doing? And the
It was
cases
partially.
that you were opening?
It was partially as a result of that, because after I opened these cases, for example, the cases I opened against the late Duru Maeni, after I opened these cases, I then had interactions with prosecutors and police, and further investigations took place. And then after I opened cases against Pashlani, I opened that case with IPID because he's the acting commissioner of police. So you can't go to the police station and open a case. In the same way, when it came to Jackie Celebi, I opened the case with ICD.
What triggered you opening a case or a complaint, laying a complaint with IPID in respect of General Pashlani?
Chairman, I got a tip-off. And the tip-off came from a person who worked in the police. He was the head of forensics in the Eastern Cape. And he approached me.
Mzansi.
That's it, yes. Colonel Mzansi. He's gone on pension now. He later was promoted to brigadier. But he approached me in, I think, August 2014. No, sorry, August 2015. And he approached me and told me, listen, I'd like to give you some information about corruption with General Pashlani, who at the time wasn't the acting commissioner of police. He was the divisional commissioner of forensic services. So I invited him, next time you're in Johannesburg, come and see me. And then about a month later, I hadn't heard from him, so I sent him an email. I said, are we on? Are you going to do something, or what's the story? He wrote back and he said, no, I've decided I'm going to handle this internally. And because the police are investigating my complaint. And then I thought, okay, well, there's nothing I can do there. And then about 6 or 8 weeks later, Pashlani was no longer the divisional commissioner of forensics. He was appointed as the acting commissioner of police. So after he was appointed the acting commissioner of police, I thought, wow, this is the guy that this fellow Mzansi had reached out to me 6 months earlier and said was corrupt. Now, he was appointed after Ria Piecha was suspended. And she was suspended pending an investigation to determine her fitness to hold office as a result of the tragic events that took place at Marikon, where it was alleged, and I never looked into all that, but it was alleged that it was her leadership in the police that caused that. I didn't look into that. That wasn't something I was looking at. I was more interested not in mismanagement of the police, but more in corruption within the police. That became my focus of attention. I think it's fair to say by then it was in my DNA to not stand idly by and see rampant corruption going on. So I decided that the best thing to do was to focus on all of these individuals. And lo and behold, at the time that I had or at the time that General Pashlani was appointed Commissioner of Police, I thought to myself, okay, let's try out to see, is he a good cop or a bad cop? So I sent him an email explaining to him that I had previously supplied information to Ria Pierre, which I believe implicated a certain other general in corruption. And this general had appointed, I'd opened dockets against that general as well. This general had appointed a person to lead a mini project in looking into me. It's what happens, unfortunately, when you investigate corrupt cops. They use the resources of the state to investigate you. And trust me, at one stage, there was a team of 30 cops who were doing nothing else all day long for about a year than trying to find something they could take Paul O'Sullivan down on. But be that as it is, my approach to Pashlani, I gradually ramped up.
Chair, it's not a follow-up question. There's a decorum in this house. He has been saying Pashlani, Pashlani. We don't have Pashlani here.
Okay, sorry.
We have Mr. Pashlani.
Sorry, Mr. Pashlani. Sorry.
It's general.
Yeah, General Pashlani. All right, sorry. You know, I'm just thinking out of my brain. Mr. Pashlani, he's not the general. He was a general. Anyway, Mr. Pashlani. Now, the problem with that interruption is it's broken my chain of thought. What was I saying? Oh, yes, yes. So what had happened was I had asked Mr. General, he was a general then, I asked General Pashlani to take action to pick up where General Pierre had left off and carry on with this investigation into what I consider to be corrupt senior police officials.
Just pause. There's a letter, I think, that your attorneys wrote to then General Pierre. And it's that letter you say that was passed on to, is it General or Brigadier Munu? Munu.
Lieutenant General Munu. Can you, Chairman, can you ask, or sorry, can you point me in the direction of that document?
Just help us that Furman letter. Yeah, the letter that from then is wrote 23. Okay, you can continue. In the meantime, I'll get some help to find it. It's not in the reference.
Okay,
Yet.
so I in fact have serialized everything on my computer.
No, the only reason why I asked you for that, because that
yeah, it's a very good letter.
I recall
It was in 2015.
captured all
Yes, it listed
the
everything.
complaints that you had, which were then referred to General Fiega. No, it's a here's the so perhaps while we also try and find it, Mr. Sullivan, just continue with your evidence.
Okay, so what happened, Chairman, was the letter that was sent to General Pierre set out chapter and verse as to what, and it did it in a chronological order. It set out chapter and verse as to what General Munu had been doing And General Piecha gave the letter to General Munu. And that became a bit of a problem because the effect of that was that I think the letter is included in the flock docket. It's an annex to the flock docket.
B143.
Pardon me?
B143.
B143 is the docket. It was
Okay.
probably about B184 somewhere. Ah, here we go. Lekker. Okay, it's page B184.
184.
Yes, 184. Now,
Yeah.
Chairman, the whole of this can be read into the record because it sets out chapter and verse of exactly what was going on in a chronological fashion. And this is the letter that was sent to General Piecha by my attorneys. And it starts with events that took place in 2012 and leads right up to the date of the letter. And the letter is dated 26th of May, 2015. And it talks about the dockets that I had opened. It talks about opening a docket in Silverton against Advocate Mwebi, Advocate Jiba, General Ndluli. It talks about a letter I sent to then head of DPCI, which was General Dramat, to notify him that I believed General Munu was engaged in what I could at that time describe as questionable activity. I then talk about a docket I opened in 2014 involving alleged corruption. Then I talk about an email I sent to General Piecha canvassing allegations of misconduct against General Munu in October 2014. I wrote to her again that I became aware of information because, Chairman, if you've got stuff like this going on, it's better to have it on the record before it happens. So I wrote and I informed General Piecha that I believed that General Munu was planning to have me arrested on trumped-up charges. So I wrote and told her that. I then wrote again on the 13th to advise her that I would be increasing my focus on corrupt police officers, and by implication, I meant General Munu. I then received a response on the 25th of October 2014 from General Piecha informing me that she had forwarded my complaint to General Munu. And I considered that to be, shall we say, defeating the ends of justice, because here you are making a complaint against a general that you consider to be possibly corrupt. And the next thing, the person you complain to, which is that general's boss, supplies him with a copy of the complaint. I then wrote to her again, and this time I now started involving IPID, because I thought to myself, well, if I'm just going to complain to the Commissioner of Police, and she's going to share my complaint with the person of interest, I must now involve IPID. So I wrote to her again, and I copied IPID. And that was at the beginning of 2015.
Is that at the time when Robert McBride was the executive director of IPID?
That's correct. So I think he had been just about appointed around about that time, or just before then. I can't remember.
And when you referred the complaints to IPID and McBride was the executive director, did you know him at the time?
No, I didn't know him before I referred these complaints to him. In fact, I only get to know him after he was appointed. I got a phone call from a journalist one day telling me that IPID had issued an apology to me. And then I went on the website and I found that apology. And the apology was from IPID, which had previously been known as ICD, which was the Independent Complaints Directorate. And while it was ICD, I brought a court application against the ICD because they failed and or refused to do any investigation into my allegations against General Celebi, Jackie Celebi, the late Jackie Celebi. So, because I issued a court application against ICD, by the way, we settled on an agreed court order. And the agreed court order was that they agreed to carry out the proper investigation. But by that stage, I'd more or less given up. And that was probably 2006 or 2007 or something like that. By that stage, I'd handed everything I had to the Scorpions. But they issued a report stating that they could find no wrongdoing on the part of Jackie Celebi. And a year later, of course, he was charged criminally. So I felt that I was vindicated because of their failure or refusal to investigate Jackie Celebi. But I was still not happy that they still had on their website a statement from ICD, which had now become IPID. On their website, they had a letter stating that they carried out the investigation and they could find no evidence of wrongdoing on the part of Jackie Celebi. So I wrote to them. I didn't write to Robert McBride. I wrote to IPID and I said, look, this is on your website. He's now been convicted. Don't you think it would be more appropriate if you take that down from your website? And they then took it down. I asked for an apology, but they didn't give me the apology. But after Robert McBride was appointed, without any conversation with me, and by that stage, Jackie Celebi was in prison, or hospital prison, because he didn't actually serve a day in prison. He was in a hospital, but sort of a hospital prison. What happened was I got this call from a journalist saying that IPID had issued an apology to me for the conduct of ICD in forcing me to go to court, to launch a court application, to make them do an investigation, and then to carry out an investigation and issue a report that they couldn't find any wrongdoing. In fact, the report was a bit more than that. They accused me of sour grapes. They said that actually they believed that I had pursued this matter because Jackie Celebi had been involved in the cancellation of my contract at AXA. And they believed that, therefore, I had done this as a result of sour grapes. And they apologized for this. So after they apologized for that, I then decided, okay, well, since they're apologizing, there seems to be some goodwill there. So I then dragged them into my email exchanges with General Piega. And lo and behold, she was then suspended. But before she was suspended, I had meetings then with IPID. And I had the meeting at IPID but in this case, they agreed to meet with me. So I didn't say I want a meeting with you. You know, it's nothing cagey about it at all. I just say, listen, there's stuff going on. You're the head of DPCI, and I think you need to know. You need to know a relationship between this fellow Radovan Krejcir and certain generals in crime intelligence. And I met with him and I explained to him what was going on. And then I explained to him where I believed General Muna fitted into the picture. And I need to point out that I had a motive for doing this because Radovan Krejcir had tried to murder me several times, actually. On the 9th of January, 2014, Radovan Krejcir was in jail and he was bringing a bail application. And I'd heard that he was bringing a bail application. So I put some evidence together and I went to see the prosecutor. And I said, listen, I think, you know, it's not the job of a citizen to oppose bail, but I think you should know that I believe this man has been involved in quite a lot of murders. And I produced the evidence that I believed was appropriate, which included a statement I had taken from a person living in Prague, in the Czech Republic. I had tracked this person down. He had previously been working for Radovan Krejcir, and he gave me a sworn statement setting out chapter and verse about how Radovan Krejcir killed certain people. And not only that, he explained in detail how Radovan Krejcir had hired him to kill me. And on the 9th of January 2014, there was an attempt on my life. And the people were arrested outside my house, actually at a hotel, the Road Lodge in Sandton, close to my house. But I have video footage of them surveilling my house. And a chap by the name of, can't remember his first name, but he had a nickname, Killer Kimber. Killer Kimber came to my house and told me, listen, they're going to kill you this morning. I said, yeah, I know about it. I've got a process in place to protect myself from that from happening. So what happened was they ran an operation. I had already a person inside that crime syndicate who didn't want to be involved in what they were doing and had come to me and told me what was going on. And they arrested all of them. And when they arrested all of them, this person later gave me a sworn statement, which that sworn statement was supplied to General Paslani, implicating General Muna, because the individual that had been arrested, who was in fact a 204 witness, had implicated General Muna because one of the co-accused of him with Radovan Krejcir had told to him, because after they'd been arrested, General Muna came on the crime scene and started taking their photographs with his cell phone. And the 204 witness was told by one of the accused, a chap by the name of Mir, listen, keep it to yourself, but that general's going to get us all out of here. If they book you out for investigation, just say nothing. But when they told him that, they didn't realize that he was actually a 204 witness. He was already working with the police. So this guy told them, he told the police that this fellow Mir had told him, don't worry, we're all going to be taken care of. Radovan Krejcir has got that guy in his pocket. He's going to look after us. So all of this started going on at the same time. And the end result was the then Deputy National Commissioner of Police was a person by the name of Kekla Sitoli. So I got my lawyer to send a detailed letter to him.
Yeah, General Sitoli replaced General Paslani.
Yes, but while General Paslani was acting chief of police,
Yeah.
General Sitoli was the deputy national commissioner for police on the detective side. So he just moved up one level when he became commissioner of police. But at the time, and I had no issues with General Sitoli, except that things moved very quickly around that time. And eventually what happened was my investigations into Paslani led to lots of things happening to me. And when I say lots of things happening to me, I'm talking about unlawful arrests, detention, torture, assault, having my offices raided multiple times, having staff kidnapped, lots of things, and it's all documented.
Yeah, but, perhaps, can we just go to that, that annexure where these events are catalogued, and then we can conclude
So that would be the
on, for today.
143.
That's the flock.
Yes, 143. So if we go to 143, Chairman, this sets out chapter and verse in a chronological order as to what all was going on. And obviously it's a lengthy document. So I want to start actually with page 139. So if we start with page 139, page 139 is the charge sheet, because in 2019, Flock was arrested and charged on the dockets I opened against him. And that was like 7 years ago, and that trial still hasn't started. But he was arrested and charged, and this is the charge sheet that was issued. It was updated slightly. So this is actually, I think, the 24 version or 23 version, but these were essentially the same charges. And count one was attempted extortion. And if you read this attempted extortion, what Flock is alleged to have done is he'd gone to the lawyers of a divorcee, a female divorcee, and he told her that she would be arrested on charges of possession of unlicensed firearms and racketeering, and she would not be granted bail. And did by means of the said threat, attempted to induce or pressure unlawfully and intentionally obtain an advantage not due to him, to wit, to get this lady to allow Mr. her husband access to their minor daughter, who was a subject of a custody battle, and to become a witness against Paul O'Sullivan. Now, we had taken on, in respect of that matter, I had taken on, well, Forensics for Justice had taken on a pro bono case. So we would act for some people that needed help. We've acted, for example, for some community property associations where corruption has taken place and they've lost their land and stuff like that. We tried to help these people. And in this case, we tried to help her because she considered herself to be an abused wife or ex-wife.
That's Ms. Flush.
Yes.
So the charges count 1, 2, and 3
Yeah, if you look at charge 3, Chairman.
relate to her.
Yes, all these charges relate to her. But if you look at charge 3, that the accused of crime of defeating or obstructing the course of justice, and there at that place on that date and what, the accused had wrongfully and intentionally performed the following act: threatened to arrest Len Fleece on charges of possession of unlicensed firearm and racketeering, and keep her in custody unless she assisted with an investigation against Paul O'Sullivan. Now, charge 4 is even worse, because charge 4, the same warrant officer Flock was charged with, in that on or about the 29th of November 2017, and at or near Brooklyn, in the regional division of Gauteng, the accused had wrongfully and intentionally performed the following acts. Deposed to an affidavit that the docket under Alberton Cass 799/11/2012 was stolen, and that he had to open a duplicate docket for purposes of investigation. And whereas the accused, when he acted aforesaid, well knew that he signed for the original docket, and that by opening a duplicate docket, he intended that his actions would have the following results or consequence: that a different decision be made than what was initially decided by the prosecution, and thus so doing the accused defeated or obstructed the administration of justice. In fact, that docket was a case that was opened against myself and one of my staff. We carried out the investigation in 2012. And that investigation was for a deceased estate. And the allegation was that the person of interest had stolen 6.5 million rand from the deceased estate. And during the course of our investigation, we had cause to go and visit the person of interest to say that, look, we have these allegations, we'd like to get your version of events. And, you know, if you didn't steal the money, it's fine, but if you did steal the money, maybe you should put it back because you would face criminal charges. So, as I mentioned to you earlier, if you're investigating criminals, quite a lot of them like to think, oh, I can get this guy off my back, I'll open a counter investigation. So he opened a docket in Alberton in November under that number 799/11/2012. And that accused person alleged that I had said to him, if you pay me 3 million, we'll let the case go away. But he was a bit silly because I had one of my staff with me, a forensic specialist was with me, a lady by the name of Melissa Naidu. And as a standard procedure, we tape recorded the discussion. So nothing of the kind was said. So I did a warning statement because I did a statement because the investigating officer of the case from Alberton Police Station phoned me and said, listen, this guy's opened a case against you. We need to get your statement. So I said, no problem. And I went and I gave him a copy of the docket we'd opened against that person of interest, alleging theft of 6.5 million rand. And the prosecutor took a decision not to prosecute on the docket the counter investigation that had been opened against us. But Flock wasn't happy with that. And he worked with another prosecutor, and they took a decision based on a new docket that had been created on the basis that the old docket had gone missing. Meanwhile, it hadn't gone missing. They were able to get evidence that he'd gone and taken that docket and made a sworn statement saying that the docket had been stolen. In fact, in his sworn statement, he alleged that I'd stolen the docket, but he'd forgotten that when he went to the police station, he refused to sign for it. And they said, no, you must sign. He said, then you must phone the commissioner, which at the time was General Pashlani. They said, no, if you want me to sign for it, you must phone the commissioner. And the guy, instead of phoning the commissioner, he just entered on the system that this fellow had come along and taken the docket and refused to sign for it, but it was on the system. So now they knew he had taken that docket.
Yes, then in the annexure that
It follows.
at 143.
Yep.
Your sworn statement, you then also catalogue.
I catalog everything in detail. So we
Yeah.
talk about this this fellow Flock.
Yeah.
And then if I go to page 146, because obviously anybody can read the whole thing, but I just want to
Yeah, no, I just want us to
highlight the
that we can
important
conclude on
areas. If I
this,
go
yeah.
to page 146, paragraph
56 to 156.
146. Page 146, paragraph 9. I've said Cratchit shot Jackson dead on 2010-05-03 at Smith's house rented in Kempton Park, and together with the corrupt general in crime intelligence. And the importance of this is very important because I found out who that corrupt general was, and I opened the docket against him. And his name is not mentioned in here. I think he's deceased now. His name was Joey Mabasa. So then what happened was this fellow Cyril Beaker was murdered. Then we go to page 148, paragraph 14. I explain in detail here where General Muna fits in the relationship with Radovan Krejcir. And we talk about the undercover agent who was arrested with the people that were trying to kill me on the 9th of January, 2014. So they walked into a trap. They were all caught. Now, after that, I explain the link between Flock and Munu, because at the time, Flock was working in Munu's offices. And if you go to paragraph 18, which is on page 149,
Yeah.
I subsequently got a statement in 2016 from who was then a policeman, a warrant officer or captain, I can't remember, at Hartbeespoort Dam. His name was Gijspert Kutsia. And he gave me a statement in October 2016. And the statement is available if anybody wants to see it, but it says, in or during late 2014, I was working what was then known as the National Intervention Unit. This is a group of detectives that operated under direct control and management of then Divisional Commissioner for Detectives, Lieutenant General Munu. It was whilst working under Munu that I first came across Warrant Officer Flock. I could see that his conduct in late 2014 appeared to be directed towards finding any information he could find that would incriminate Paul O'Sullivan in any crimes at all. It was not as if there was a specific complaint. It was more like he was on a fishing expedition. I say this because he asked me several times if I could help him find any dirt on Paul O'Sullivan. I made it